Technologies, and today's topic is just getting started with traffic management. We're starting a traffic management series that's going to be a three-part series. So it's going to be, today it's just going to be getting started with traffic management. As you're seeing right now, many organizations have mission-critical real-time network applications, and they either must take priority over other traffic, or there's such other applications that may be a must on a network, such as streaming video or anything that's more bandwidth intensive. But as you know, with streaming video, that it's going to take up as much as it can to create the highest definition, the best user experience. So there's going to be a lot of contention for for bandwidth, as you have many users trying to connect, trying to contend for the bandwidth. So there's a couple of things we can do with traffic management. So we can actually manage traffic by by either user or by policy, as well as we can manage it by application, and then finally QoS marking, where if you have a voice over IP phone system, and you can actually get that in for them to set up the tags and whatnot. So for the primary, we're just going to do basic bandwidth management, where we're going to just do it by IP address, or we can do it by user, but it's going to be static. And then there's going to be a couple of use case scenarios. So traffic management settings. So in 11.9, we revamped our traffic control. It's going to be a lot easier to use. So there's three things. One is we can either limit or guarantee bandwidth for an application. So for one of the, like streaming video, is something that we'd want to limit, and then voice over IP or whichever through a policy we want to guarantee, because when you're conducting business and whatnot. So, and there's a couple of different ways we can do that. So the three things is that we can actually we can actually limit, we can limit per group, per IP, or per application. So to get started here, the very first thing, I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple of slides and kind of how to set it up, and then I'll go into the live demo. So the first thing that we need to do is enable traffic management in QoS. So globally in the policy under global settings, we need to go in there and ensure that the traffic management is set up and that it can be interjected into the policies. And as you see down in here, it's just a simple checkbox. You go ahead and go into the networking tab, enable all traffic management in QoS, and click OK. Now this just turns it on globally. The next thing is since we did completely revamp traffic control in version 11.9, is we need to make sure that the policy manager is aware that the software that you are going to be using the 11. So you have a choice of using the older traffic management, which is a little bit more kludgy, or the new one. So you just click and make sure that you're 11.9 or higher. So you just go into the menu, and I'll go ahead and under Live Setup, go Setup OS Compatibility, and you select 11.9 or higher. So then the next thing that is very important is we have to have a reference point. So in our lab here, I have a virtual machine that's behind a firebox. I'm just using 2 ports, and I have a bandwidth of 85 megs up and 85 megs down. So what you do is you need to define your upload and your download, so that way the firebox has a reference. So you just go under the network configuration, edit the trusted, and select Advanced tab. Now everything in here is in our Advanced Traffic Management Guide, which I'll also show you where to reference that in the future as well. Then after that is done, now what we do is we take a traffic management action. So this is how it's going to handle the traffic, and we're going to take these actions and apply it to a policy. So to create a new traffic management action, we're going to set up actions, traffic management, and then if prompted, so if you didn't do so before, you select 11.9 or higher. Then you click the select action type. So there are three different basic policy types, and that is applies to the combined bandwidth of all policies that use it. Per policy applies to each individually to each policy that uses it, and per IP address each individually to each client source IP. And I'll go in the next slide really go into what these really are asking for. And then what you can set is you're going to either set a maximum bandwidth or a guaranteed bandwidth. And then in the very, if you use per IP address, you can do maximum instance. So I'm going to go into further detail of what our traffic management options are. Okay, so consider the effect of traffic management when you have a maximum bandwidth of 1 meg applied to 4 policies. Okay, so if the action type is all policies, all 4 policies share the same 1 meg that is defined. So the next thing is if the action is per policy, then each policy will get their own meg of 1 meg bandwidth. And then if it's per IP address, then each policy is going to get their own, each policy is going to get their own 1 meg of, you know, for the action. Now, when you say max, instance, so let's just say if I have a 10 meg pipe and I add 1 meg for each policy, then, or I'm sorry, per each IP address. When the 11th IP address comes up, then it will share the 1 meg of the first, and then it'll just go back. So that's pretty much of how many buckets you have. So if you have a max instance of 10 IP address, then you have 10 buckets, and then they need to start rotating through them. So then, of course, the maximum bandwidth is you can allocate the amount of bandwidth that you know that it can cap at, like streaming video. You can have it cap up from overrunning, but then you may want a guaranteed bandwidth, or such as Citrix, or such as a mission critical application. And if you set it to 0, there is no bandwidth, and then if you set it to 0 on the maximum, there is no maximum. So now we go into policies. Now we take these traffic management actions, and since internet traffic, you know, in a policy is bidirectional, you have a forward action and you have a reverse action. So what this is pertaining to is, on a forward action, let's say if it's a web policy, a forward action is going to be your upload. So like in a DSL line, you have, let's say, maybe 10 megs upload, I'm sorry, 10 megs download and like 2 megs upload. This is the upload action that you're going to cap out going, you know, uploading, like if you're uploading a file or whatnot. Your reverse action, which is going to be about, you know, 90% of your traffic, is your download. So you can actually have different policies, and in the live demonstration I'll show you the differences, and when I do a speed test you can see the upload and download and how they act. So if a policy uses the same action for both directions, the action applies to the combined bandwidth in both directions. So it could be per policy or per IP. So if one is uploading and downloading, they will share that if you apply that same action to both of them. So as you see here, I have a little demonstration or a little graphic here. So it's forward action is your upload and reverse action is your download. Now, while doing this, you can actually monitor the traffic in the Firebox tools. In the traffic management, you can actually see this in action as the Firebox is applying policy, or I'm sorry, applying the traffic management in real time. So the chart will show statistics for the selected action in Firebox System Manager. Hover over the action name, and you'll see it as you'll see everything in action. And this is kind of an idea of what the screens look like. So either both the Web UI and the System Manager, they're pretty similar. So in our use case, I'm going to limit the HTTP traffic. So guaranteeing traffic is a little harder to show as guaranteed, but what I'm going to do is do either stream video, or I'm going to do just a speed test. But I'm going to limit the traffic. So in my actual case scenario, I have 85 megs of bandwidth. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a policy to allow 5 megs of upload and 10 megs of download. So I'm going to set the forward action. Actually, here it says to 1, but I'm actually going to set it to 5. And the reverse action, I'm going to set it to 2. I'm sorry, 10. So the next one is to guarantee 10 megs of throughput for a specific user. That can be done as well, but that's a little bit more abstract. So it's just setting up your traffic management action. And then it's the maximum and guaranteed bandwidth. So you can actually set them both. You can actually apply a minimum amount and a maximum amount at the same time. And then as far as the live demonstration, so what I have here is I have so I am just basically on this policy. So the first thing I'm going to do is under Setup,